Welcome back. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating, kind of radical model of the universe, one that's designed to solve a paradox that has been around for, well, forever. So let's kick things off with a question, a real head-scratcher that's puzzled thinkers for centuries. How do we make sense of these three huge ideas about our reality? First, you've got this idea of an absolute, unchanging truth. Then, there's our own messy, personal, lived experience. And finally, there's this deep-seated feeling that our choices are real, that they actually matter. The question is, can all three of those things possibly be true at the same time? And right away, you see the problem, right? On the one hand, if there's an absolute, capital T, truth out there, a universal standard of right and wrong that never changes, then how can our choices be genuinely free? I mean, if the final answer is already written, what's the point of the test? And then you flip it around. If our emotional, constantly changing human experiences are real and valid, how can there possibly be one final objective standard of justice that applies to everybody? How does a timeless law judge a life lived in the middle of time and chaos? This is what's called the impossible trinity. It really feels like you can have maybe two of them, but no way can you have all three. Okay, so how do you even begin to solve something like that? Well, a framework called the dual causal model proposes a really unique solution. It doesn't try to smush these three ideas into one. Instead, it suggests that reality itself is made of three distinct interacting domains, or fields. And the way it's presented is, well, it's not just some abstract philosophy. The source material actually calls it metaphysical physics. The idea here is that things we normally think of as abstract concepts, like mercy, justice, they might actually have a physical basis in the very structure of reality. All right, let's pop the hood and see how this thing is actually built. The whole architecture of the model rests on these three core fields. You've got the light field, the sound field, and the buffer field. Just think of them as the three fundamental layers of everything. So first up, I want you to picture a realm of just pure, unbending law. The model calls this the light field. In this place, there's no time, there's no emotion, and there's definitely no maybe. This is a field that doesn't discuss, it doesn't negotiate, it just decides. And what's so wild about this field is just how stark it is. It's not a story, it's more like a rule, a constraint. It simply is. It's this unchanging, timeless standard for what's true, what's valid, and what's right. You can think of it as the ultimate anchor for reality. Now, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum from that static light field, we have the sound field. This is where we live. This is where everything we think of as life actually happens. Time, struggle, emotion, growth, even decay. This is the realm of story. And the source material gives us this awesome analogy. Think of it like a four-stroke engine. An experience is taken in, like fuel, that's the potential. Then it's compressed down into memory. Then it ignites into emotion or action, that's the power stroke. And finally, the consequences dissipate, like exhaust. This cycle is basically the engine of every story, all of history, and all of our personal growth. Okay, so you've got this timeless, perfect truth on one side, and this chaotic, messy story on the other. How on earth do they ever meet without just, boom, annihilating each other? Well, that's the absolutely crucial role of the third domain, the buffer field. And this is the key. This is our world. The buffer field is the middle ground. It's Earth as a testing ground. It creates a kind of safe zone where our lives, our stories, with real stakes, can play out against that standard of absolute truth, but without being instantly judged and snuffed out. It's what allows for time, for choice, and for a chance for the story to actually happen. Okay, and this is where, for me, the model gets really interesting. It tries to connect these pretty abstract-sounding fields to actual principles from physics. It gives things like mercy and justice a formal, almost mathematical structure. So check this out. The model draws these incredible parallels to physics. The timeless laws of the light field are compared to gauge constraints. Think of those as the fundamental, unbreakable rules of the game that govern a system. Meanwhile, the messy, time-bound sound field, with all its cause and effect and eventual decay, maps perfectly onto thermodynamics in the arrow of time. And the concept that ties this whole thing together, the linchpin really, is something from quantum physics called decoherence time. Now, to put it simply, it's that tiny, tiny window before a whole cloud of possibilities collapses into one single definite outcome. It's the pause, right before the decision becomes reality.
So get this. In this framework, mercy isn't just a nice idea or some vague theological concept. It's a quantity. It's a variable. Divine mercy is defined as a finite decoherence time. It is the actual, literal time you are given between making a choice and facing its final, irreversible judgment. It's a physical space for the story to change course.
All right, let's put all the pieces back on the board and see how this whole three-part structure, this trinity of fields, actually solves that impossible trinity we started with. See, the argument is that you absolutely need all three. Take one away and the whole system falls apart. Without the light field, there's no ultimate meaning or truth. Without the sound field, well, there's no story, no experience, no life. And, this is the key, without the buffer field, the story would be over the second it began. So this whole setup, it gives a home to each of those ideas that seemed to be in conflict. Free will gets to exist right here, in the buffer zone, where we can hear the command of the light field, but we're not instantly forced to obey it. Justice is guaranteed because that light field is always there, providing the final, unchanging standard. And mercy exists as that finite time, that delay, before the final reckoning. Which means, in this model, Judgment Day is simply the moment the buffer gets removed. You know, when you step back, the final takeaway from this model is, it's pretty profound. It's suggesting that our reality, with all its complexity and all its contradictions, is actually the minimum complete architecture you would need for three things to all be real at the same time: absolute truth, temporal experience, and meaningful choice. It suggests our universe is, well, it's a universe built for meaning.